Welcome to Deep Dive Podcast, episode number 4.
Yeah.
So, social media, it's everywhere, right? It's how we stay in touch, get our news, kill time. It feels totally woven into our lives now.
Yeah.
But what if all that scrolling and liking, what if it's doing something, deeper? Something inside our heads? Are these platforms actually, changing our brains? It's kind of a wild thought.
It really is. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We've looked at the sources you sent over, and our mission here is to pull out the really crucial bits. We want to help you understand how social media interacts with our minds, sometimes in ways that aren't immediately obvious. We'll unpack the psychology, the actual brain changes that make these apps so hard to put down. Some experts even compare it to addiction, and we'll explore why they're saying that.
Right. It sounds like quite a trip. So we're going to look at the brain's reward system first.
Yeah.
How that all works.
Exactly.
And then how the apps kind of hijack that, the design tricks they use.
Precisely. Then we'll get into the evidence, what scientists are actually seeing change in the brain.
Okay. And finally, what this means for us, and maybe some other angles too, some counterpoints.
Yes, absolutely. We need the full picture.
All right then, let's get into it. Where do we start with the brain part?
Okay, so to really get why social media hooks us, you have to understand the brain's dopaminergic reward system. That sounds technical, but it's basically a super old, really core pathway in our brains. It's designed for survival stuff, eating, socializing, learning things. When we do those things, our brain releases dopamine.
Dopamine, the pleasure chemical.
Well, that's the common idea, but it's a bit of a misunderstanding. Dr. Anna Lembke, she wrote Dopamine Nation, brilliant book. She explains it really clearly. Dopamine isn't really about the pleasure itself. It's more about the anticipation of pleasure. It's that feeling of, ooh, maybe something good is coming. It's what drives us to seek things out, that craving.
So it's the wanting, not the having, the what if I check my phone now feeling.
Exactly that. It's the motivator. And there are specific brain areas involved here. You've got the nucleus accumbens, think of it as the reward hub. Then the ventral tegmental area, the VTA, that's like the dopamine factory sending it out.
Right.
And the prefrontal cortex, which helps with planning and decisions. They all work together in this loop, driving us to repeat behaviors that trigger that dopamine anticipation.
And this is where social media comes in.
Yeah.
Right? Because they seem to have figured out exactly how to push those dopamine buttons.
Masterfully. Think about getting a notification, a like, a comment. It's unpredictable. You don't know when it's coming.
Yeah.
That's classic B.F. Skinner, operant conditioning. He found that variable ratio reinforcement rewards that come randomly are the absolute most addictive.
Like a slot machine. You pull the lever, maybe you win, maybe you don't, but the maybe keeps you pulling.
Precisely. Social media is basically a pocket-sized slot machine for social validation. Each unpredictable notification is a little dopamine hit, reinforcing the checking behavior over and over. It becomes almost automatic.
Wow. So it's literally playing on that anticipation loop. But it's not just the random likes, is it? There's the whole social side too.
Oh, absolutely. We're wired for social connection, for validation. Likes, followers, shares, they become these external measures of our worth, almost. They tap into that deep need to belong, to be accepted.
And then there's FOMO, fear of missing out. That feels huge.
It is huge. It's a real psychological driver.
Yep.
That constant anxiety that something important or exciting is happening online without you. There was a study in 2022, I think in computers and human behavior, that showed a direct link between FOMO and spending more time on screens. It keeps you compulsively checking.
You just can't switch off.
Exactly. And all these elements feed into what people call the attention economy. The platforms are fundamentally designed to capture and hold your attention for as long as possible.
How do they do that specifically?
Well, think about the endless scroll. There's no natural endpoint like turning a page in a book. You can just keep going and going.
Yeah, you just lose time.
Right. Then push and notifications constantly pull you back in. Even if you didn't intend to open the app, they're external cues.
Interrupting whatever else you were doing.
And the algorithms are incredibly sophisticated. They learn what you like, what keeps you watching or clicking, and they feed you more of it. It's hyper-personalized. All these things exploit basic habit loops. There's a cue, like boredom or a notification, an action, opening the app, a reward, new content, a like, and that reward reinforces the craving to do it again next time. It's a really powerful cycle.
Okay, so we see how they hook us, how they tap into these reward pathways. But what's the actual, physical effect on the brain? Are there measurable changes?
This is where the research gets quite sobering, actually. There's growing neurological evidence pointing to real changes, both in brain structure and function, linked to heavy social media use.
Really? Like what?
MRI studies, for example. Some have shown links between excessive use and reduced gray matter volume in a specific area called the anterior cingulate cortex, or ACC.
Okay, what does the ECC do?
It's really important for things like regulating your emotions, empathy, making decisions, basically higher level cognitive control. Less gray matter there could imply difficulties in those areas. And at the same time, some studies show increased activity in the amygdala. That's the brain's emotional processing center, often linked to fear and threat detection.
So, more sensitive emotionally. Maybe more anxious from all the social feedback.
And that's the implication, yes. It suggests the constant stream of social information, positive or negative, might keep that emotional system kind of on edge, more volatile.
And it's not just structure, right? You mentioned function, too.
Correct. There are impacts on cognitive abilities. A Harvard study from 2023 reported links between heavy use and shorter attention spans and weaker working memory.
That makes intuitive sense, always switching between things.
Exactly. It's sometimes called task switching fatigue, constantly jumping between apps, refreshing feeds. It seems to diminish our ability to maintain focus on one thing for a longer period. Our cognitive control gets, well, weaker.
Like trying to train for a marathon by only doing sprints.
That's a great analogy, actually, yeah.
And this must be especially concerning for teenagers, right? Their brains are still developing.
Hugely concerning. The prefrontal cortex, that key area for impulse control, planning, rational thought, isn't fully mature until the mid-20s.
So throwing these super stimulating, potentially addictive platforms at a brain that's still under construction.
Can have significant consequences. That JAMA pediatric study from 2023 you mentioned earlier found correlations in adolescents between high daily screen time and things like impaired reward sensitivity.
Meaning they need more stimulation to feel satisfied.
Potentially, yes. And also, alarmingly, higher rates of reported anxiety and depression. It's not just about the content they see, but how the constant engagement itself seems to be shaping their developing neural pathways and emotional responses.
So these brain changes, they obviously have knock-on effects psychologically and socially.
Absolutely. One major thing is escapism. It's so easy to just pick up your phone when you feel bored, stressed, lonely, anything uncomfortable, really.
A quick fix.
A quick fix, exactly. But if that becomes your main coping strategy, you might not develop healthier ways to actually sit with those feelings or solve the underlying problems. You just swipe them away temporarily. Then there's social comparison. This is a big one, especially with visually driven platforms like Instagram.
Seeing everyone's highlight reel.
Precisely. Constantly seeing these idealized versions of life, bodies, success. It inevitably leads to comparison. And research consistently links that comparison to body image issues, depression, lower self-worth, particularly among young women.
Didn't Facebook's own research show that?
It did. That leaked internal report from 2021 acknowledged that Instagram can have a toxic effect on teen girls' mental health. It confirmed what many suspected.
So notifications, rewards, comparison, it all conditions us.
It conditions us to turn to social media when we feel negative emotions, creating this dependency cycle. The sources we looked at draw clear parallels between this pattern and the mechanisms seen in substance abuse.
It's pretty powerful when you see it laid out like that. And we see examples of this everywhere. TikTok, for instance. That For You page feels almost psychic sometimes.
It's an incredibly effective algorithm, that rapid feedback loop, constantly learning, delivering exactly what will keep you scrolling. It's potent. There was that study from Beijing Normal University you flagged.
Right, the one showing brain changes after just 15 minutes.
Yeah, specifically changes in prefrontal cortex activity related to self-regulation. Just 15 minutes. It shows how quickly these platforms can impact our cognitive control, even short-term.
And academics have even coined the term Facebook addiction disorder.
They have. It's used in research to describe compulsive use that genuinely disrupts someone's daily life work, relationships, responsibilities, and the symptoms they list really do echo substance use disorders.
Like needing more and more time on it. Feeling bad when you can't use it.
Exactly. Tolerance, withdrawal, relapse, conflict. It's a serious pattern for some individuals.
But there are efforts to combat this, right? Like those detox camps in South Korea.
Yes, that's a fascinating example of a government-level intervention. They have these digital detox camps, particularly for adolescents. And the early results seem positive reports of better sleep, improved focus in school, more real-world social interaction. It suggests intervention can help.
Okay, so it's clear there are significant downsides and risks. But is it all bad? Are there counterarguments?
Definitely. It's crucial to have a nuanced view. Social media isn't inherently evil, and it does offer real benefits for many. Connection is a huge one.
Yeah, keeping up with friends and family far away.
Absolutely. And for people in marginalized groups or those with specific health conditions or niche interests, it can be a lifeline finding community, peer support, information that they might not find offline. Think about mental health groups, for example.
That's a really good point. So maybe how we use it matters more than if we use it.
Research suggests exactly that. There's a difference between passively scrolling, just consuming content, and actively engaging.
Like commenting, messaging, actually interacting.
Right. Passive consumption tends to be linked more strongly with negative feelings like envy or loneliness. Active, mindful engagement seems to be less harmful, potentially even beneficial if it's fostering genuine connection. So, intention matters.
Being a participant, not just a spectator.
Well put. And there's another really important hopeful point, neuroplasticity.
The brain's ability to change.
Exactly. Our brains are constantly adapting. The changes we talked about, the reduced gray matter, the altered activity, they aren't necessarily set in stone.
So we can potentially reverse some of this.
The evidence suggests yes. By consciously reducing screen time, making an effort to engage in rewarding activities, offline exercise, nature, hobbies, real-world socializing, and practicing things like mindfulness, we can actually encourage our brains to rewire themselves in healthier ways.
That's actually really encouraging. We're not just stuck.
We're not stuck. The brain is remarkably resilient and adaptable.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway? Social media isn't the devil, but its design is incredibly effective at tapping into some very basic, very powerful parts of our brain chemistry.
That sums it up well. These platforms leverage ancient reward pathways with modern technology. And as the sources strongly suggest, the way they manipulate these circuits has parallels with gambling, even with drugs.
Which really makes you think.
It does, and it pushes the question beyond just individual self-control, doesn't it? If these tools are designed in ways that can be detrimental, maybe we need to think bigger.
Like societal questions
Mm-hmm.
about design ethics, regulation.
Exactly. Should we be having conversations about digital well-being as a public health issue, similar to how we eventually approach things like tobacco or alcohol? It shifts the focus from blaming the user to examining the system.
That quote from Tristan Harris comes to mind, the former Google ethicist.
The product is not the app. The product is your attention, and your brain is the battleground.
It's powerful because it highlights where the real conflict lies. A really potent thought, something for all of us to consider as we pick up our phones today. How are we engaging in that battleground? Well, this has been incredibly insightful. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.